Okay, so this is my first video. Yay, me, I'm excited. I'm doing this video because I've been watching a lot of podcasts lately, and they're talking about relationships and what you wish your spouse would know about you, marriages, all this stuff. What about depression in relationships? What about anxiety in relationships? What about those two combinations just in general? Like, everybody suffers from some sort of depression or anxiety, and it's just looked the other way when it comes to those topics, and I don't hear much about that anymore. And I suffer from depression and anxiety and a bunch of other stuff, and those are things that I would like to hear in a podcast or on TV or to see more people talk about, because there's so much things that go into it that you don't know where to go. You don't want to go to a therapist because all they want to do is put you on more drugs. I went to several, and every time I've gone to one, it's always been, well, you need to take this pill, you need to take this pill, you need to take that pill, and then come back and see me and let's talk about how you feel. Well, I feel broke now, thank you, because I just spent $100 on you to tell me that I need pills, and these pills are expensive, and then they want you to take them for 3 months straight before they have an effect on you. So you're telling me I'm spending all this money on pills that aren't going to work for like 3 months down the road. And then in between all this time, you're going to adjust them because they're not working, which makes no sense to me. I've had my meds adjusted so many times that one night I took them and I felt like a zombie. You know, I couldn't even keep my eyes open. It wasn't that I was tired. I was just out of it. I was so out of it, so doped up from it. And it was a horrible feeling the whole night. And I ended up just stopping my meds altogether, which, you know, they tell you is a bad thing to do because then you're just making your depression worse. Well, yeah, but at the same token, you don't have those side effects. So I've been going back and forth with pills and other stuff, and nothing really helped. And going to counseling to talk about how I feel, yeah, sometimes that would help. You feel better talking to somebody, but that person is just there to diagnose you with a problem and make money. They're not there to really give a shit about you, to be honest. They're there to make money, and to make money, they keep you there as a patient, and then they keep prescribing all these pills. I've never met a therapist who hasn't prescribed me something to take. Rather, it was Zoloft, it was, what's the other one? Lithium. Lithium is a huge one that they like to prescribe. Or you have stuff for anxiety, Valium, Xanax, all these things. And it's just, okay, cool. No. So I don't go to counseling anymore, but it's always hard to find someone to talk to because they look at you like, whoa, that's too much for me. Don't put all that on me. So where do you go? Do you talk to your partner? Well, yes, you should talk to your partner, but then your partner has all this advice that may not work for you. Just because it worked for them, it may not work for you, but also you don't fit their profile of what depression, anxiety looks like, or what your symptoms should be, because they didn't experience that. So therefore, you must not experience that, or it must be something different. They don't understand. For me, depression, anxiety could be sitting in a car, looking at the speedometer, looking at my partner who I know is doing the speed limit, which, okay, on the freeway is 60. I can see that he's doing 60, but it feels like we're just zooming down the freeway there, and I feel like we're going to crash into something. I feel like I have to hold on to the edge of my seat, and that's anxiety. My anxiety is that we're going to crash or something, and he doesn't really get that. Not that he doesn't try, but he's like, oh, I wish you'd stop freaking out. Well, I wish I'd stop freaking out too. I wish all these things, and it doesn't happen for me. I'll go talk to somebody. Well, I don't. Talk to who? Talk to a therapist who, like I said, is going to put me on pills, or talk to a friend who's going to look at you like you're crazy. So what do? You make a video and you vent, and maybe hope that you're talking to an audience that understands what you're going through, and just bounce these ideas back and forth off each other. So I'm a single mom. I have 3 kids, and I've been raising them on my own for a long time, which it's hard work for any woman out there, or a man who's raising kids by themselves. It's not always easy. You have so much to worry about. You have so much to do. You got to work. They got school. They're growing. They're changing. Their needs are changing, and you keep up with that. So there's the anxiety of, oh my gosh, I got to work all these hours just to pay for them. It's tough. It's really hard, and not a lot of people get that. Not a lot of people want to get that. and you feel like you got to go find these groups. Well, these groups are all over the place. So you're just talking to someone, you know. So like I said, I have 3 kids, 15, 12, and 11. They all have their own unique personalities, their own attitudes. And just recently I went to the dentist yesterday with them, and both of my kids need braces. That is $6,500. I don't got $6,500. So for both of them, actually all 3 of them need braces, but right now it's just 2. So 2 of them also need their wisdom teeth taken out, which is like $4,000. So it's $8,000 between 2 of them getting their wisdom teeth taken out. And we're talking over $12,000 for braces. And I don't have that kind of money. I don't. But for me, there goes my anxiety because, okay, now I've got to go talk to my boss and figure out how much overtime I can get. I got to pick up a side job. I got to do all this stuff. And I'm panicking and pacing. I don't have to panic and pace. Okay, but I do. I know I don't have to, but that part of my brain doesn't work like that. So therefore, I have to panic and just figure out what the hell, oh my God, the end of the world is coming. What do I do? So things that I've learned to do is kind of calm down and take a deep breath and process this. The biggest thing is I don't allow myself time to process everything. I kind of overreacted yesterday, but I think I did a really good job handling it. So that's the other key thing is you don't have to panic. You don't have to process. Okay, you do have to process. This is my first video. Can't you guys tell? I'm like all over the place with these topics, and I don't think that's good. The other thing is people with depression, they sleep a lot. They isolate themselves. They feel like everybody's talking about them. That's also anxiety. You could sit in a room and 2 people over there could be having a conversation about God knows what, but you're in your mind thinking, why are they talking about me? What are they saying? What did I do? You know, so you walk over there and they talk to you and then they go and leave and do something else. And you're like, oh, so they're leaving because of me. You feel like you don't fit into groups. You don't fit in anywhere. So you feel isolated to yourself. And then when you go hang out with someone, you don't know how to act. You don't know what to do. You're just surrounded by all these people. Your anxiety takes over and it could become a worst case scenario. I have a hard time going out in public. I have a hard time going to do things like my boyfriend will want to go do something. And part of me is just like, nope, my safety and my comfort is here in my house. So today I did something different for the first time. I actually went out to lunch by myself. Normally I wouldn't even do that. I'll grab it and come home, or I will go find someone to have lunch with. I actually felt okay today for the first time. I felt okay being in a restaurant by myself and not worrying about, oh, everybody else has someone at the table and here I am just a single person sitting here. And none of that took over today, which is good. But in my relationship with my boyfriend, that can be a problem because he'll go do something by himself. And I'm like, who are you with? No, you're not by yourself. You are with someone. Who are you with? And he could legitimately be by himself. And I'm just like, yeah, no, nobody does that. But people do that. People do it all the time. But with anxiety, it doesn't allow you to see that. It doesn't allow you to think that there are people who enjoy doing activities by themselves. And so today, like I said, I actually enjoyed having lunch by myself. I didn't have to have a conversation with anybody. I had my phone and I was watching videos, and it was actually kind of nice. You know, I looked up and around. Yeah, there's everybody in this restaurant. A lot of people were there with someone, and I'm just sitting in this booth by myself, knowing that my bill, because I'm feeding myself, is going to be a lot less than if I was feeding a bunch of other people. So that was my adventure for today. What else should I throw off here? I had dentist appointment this morning with the girls, and that was okay. It cost me $57. For some reason, I thought she said $5,700, and I was just like, oh damn. Kids are getting costly, by the way. Like I said, $6,500 for braces. So my daughter, for that much money, I can wire her mouth shut myself, and we just knock her out with something. So now I'm going to be protective of her mouth, because not only does she have a holier than thou attitude, now she's going to have a $6,500 mouth. And of course, I'm not going to want that damage because that's a lot of money. Back to topic, which I don't even remember what it was. So what do you do when you're depressed and you have anxiety? Also, I was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. For those who don't know, I was also diagnosed as being in bipolar. Bipolar 1 and 2 was, I don't even know what the difference is on that one, but apparently there's a 1 and there's 2. Whatever. So I was diagnosed with all these mental problems, and the biggest problem is actually myself, because I believed that I had all these things. So you read all the symptoms and what to do about it, and all the pills that they want you on. And so I found not taking meds to be helpful for me. I found just taking one day at a time. I don't always talk to people, and what I do, I probably spat off a bunch of crap, and most of it's probably true, but I probably shouldn't spat that stuff off to them, because not everybody suffers from the same things that I suffer from. And I think the biggest goal is to figure out, where did all this originate from? Because before my last marriage, I was able to go to the movies by myself. I was able to drive around in a car just fine. And now I freak out thinking I'm going to wreck, or I'm going to hit somebody, or, something bad is going to happen. And it makes it difficult for me to want to drive anywhere by myself. I used to drive to Kelso all the time. Every other weekend, I was driving down to Kelso to hang out with a friend. Not a problem. I didn't even have a cell phone that had Google Maps on it. So I was just remembering directions. And now if you try to tell me how to get somewhere, I'm not going to remember it. I'm going to need that map. I'm going to need my phone, and I'm going to panic because I don't know what to do. So before all that, I was fine. I think I was maybe a little depressed because I was raising 3 kids by myself. And I did go through a lot. Just so you guys know, I went through so much between the year 2009 and 2012. I suffered from kidney cancer, which was very hard to go through in itself. And then, so within 2009, I lost my grandmother, who was my best friend. I loved her a lot, and it was very hard to go through with all that. And then I was diagnosed with a cancer. I had my kidney surgery roughly 2 weeks after my birthday, maybe less than that. It might have even been a week and a half. I had that. Again, I was raising 3 kids by myself. I was working at Walmart, where I was probably making like 10 something an hour, if that. So, and I had my car payment, insurance, rent, all that. And then in December, I had to have a hysterectomy. So May, and then down into December, that was another surgery. So that was more time out of work. But, and then I started to feel lonely, like I needed to have someone with me. This is where my downfall started to happen. Because I was lonely, I felt that I needed to have someone. So I was going from relationship to relationship to relationship. None of them were good. None of them were healthy relationships. None of them, they were just relationships. I wanted, rather they were a good fit for me or not, I just had to have somebody with me all the time, and I became dependent on that. And then I ended up in a relationship where I knew from the beginning that was a screwed up relationship, and I should not have pursued that relationship any further. I should have left it alone, because right off the bat, he was just nothing but lies, nothing but lies, nothing but lies. Trouble, 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 and the more these lies started to unravel, any normal person would have been like, you know what, dude, no, I can't. You're too much for me, or whatever. And I chose to stick around because this is what I was becoming used to, because of all the relationships that I've been in. I was coming used to this. This was normal for me. And I felt like, because I was so depressed, that I needed to have that guy in my life, regardless of how bad the relationship was. And it was pretty bad. And for those of you who know me, you know what he was like. Who personally have known me and him, you guys know what he was like. And it was horrible. So what finally did it for me was realizing one day when, so let me just tell you the story of how I realized this, which I should have just listened to my gut instinct in the beginning, but, depression. So he had been bored and he was laying on the sofa in our apartment. Keep in mind, this is the apartment that I worked my ass off for. It took me a long time to earn money to be able to afford a 3-bedroom, because me and my kids for the longest time, and we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and they were kind of run down. So to get this apartment was huge for me. It was the biggest step in my life after living in 2-bedroom apartments for years. So we finally get a 3-bedroom, and this guy comes along, and this guy, after a year of working, blew that out of proportion. I mean, just blew it. Literally, when I say blew, he literally blew it, because he got bored. And he's a gun freak, and any gun freak knows that we don't play with guns. Well, he would literally play with his gun like it was a toy. So he was laying on the couch, and he was doing this with it. And yeah, he was actually pulling the trigger. Well, this time he pulled the trigger too hard, and he fired the gun in the house, and it went through the ceiling, and it didn't hit anybody. So hey, that was the only good thing out of that, was he didn't hurt anybody, and he didn't hurt my kids. And he made my kids lie about what happened, and he tried to tell me that the gun dropped, and because the safety mechanism wasn't turned on, that's why the gun fired. And gravity doesn't work like that, and neither does a bunch of other stuff. So long story short, we got evicted, obviously, and I started to get even more depressed, because now I'm trying to find a place for me and my kids, because we only got a certain amount of time to get out of this apartment. So I felt that everything that I had worked for just literally, blew through the roof, and he didn't care. And so he wasn't helping me look for a place. He wasn't helping me to do anything. He was just lying around feeling sorry for himself. Not sorry to me, but sorry for himself, because he didn't know where he was going to stay. So once we found a place to stay, which is where I'm still currently at, I eventually found my strength, and I just said, you have to leave. I'll figure this out on my own. I don't know what's going to happen to me and my kids, but if I continue to be in this relationship where everything was okay for him, nothing was okay for me, I wasn't allowed to do anything. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. I wasn't allowed. He would block my car in the driveway, so I wouldn't go anywhere. It was just miserable, and which led to, further relationships down the road being difficult for me, because I always figured they were going to be like him, because he was always out sneaking around. Every time he said he was with a friend, he was actually out with a female doing other stuff. So it made relationships difficult. That is my dog snoring, by the way, you guys. He's so cute. My dog's name is Snart, and he's been the biggest help in having depression. Whenever I'm sad, he puts his head in my lap. Just a wonderful dog.